Alrighty, guys, it is time. We have been waiting for this for quite a while now. Not really, but it's a tradition. We've been doing our rankings for since this podcast, since this YouTube channel has been alive, basically for over 5 years now. We've been doing rankings and tier lists, and it's been the lifeblood of this channel, really. And so let's do another one. We did a full MCU ranking using a random number generator right before Captain America Brave New World, which is a lot of fun. And we did it on live stream, and I'm hoping at some point, if we reach 2,000 subscribers, we're on the road to 2,000 subscribers, so hopefully by the end of 2025, that we could do another live stream, perhaps doing another ranking or just talking about whatever, maybe talking about 2025. But anyways, I digress. We are here to do another ranking, so we're not going to rank the entire MCU because we'd be here. That entire ranking took 3 hours, and so we're not going to do that. We're going to rank just Phase 5, because Phase 5, and we've talked about this before, even in this podcast, we talked about this with IRONHEART, but the phases in the MCU have just become obsolete. I mean, Phase 5 started with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which, okay, maybe at the time makes sense with Kang, right? With Kang starting out Phase 5, and ends with Ironheart. And you could argue it really ends with Thunderbolts, but, I mean, even then, sure, I guess. Thunderbolts seems more like a Phase 6 movie, if you ask me. Phase 6 being the arrival of Doctor Doom. Captain America Brave New World maybe feels like the end. It doesn't matter. There's nothing really to delineate what a phase is anymore. It just is what it is. So anyways, it's a clean delineation though for us to rank these projects. So now we're going to rank the 12 projects in Phase 5. I believe 6 movies and 6 shows. Could be wrong about that. I have them all listed out here separately. And so we're going to go and rank them from my least favorite to my favorite. And this is just my personal list. So you guys are definitely going to disagree with what I have to say. Not because my takes are controversial per se, just because they're my own. And I don't expect every single person. I'm sure that, some people in this world have the exact same ranking as I do, but very few, right? And just like how very few people have the same ranking as you, when you have 12 different projects, you're going to have so many different permutations of your own rankings. So let me know what your rankings are in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. But here's one thing that I will say that I think might be a little bit out of the ordinary, a little bit controversial in terms of the MCU. As I was looking back on Phase 5, and as I was making this ranking, I came to this conclusion. And I've said this before about Phase 4 as well, but I wanted to say this about Phase 5. I think Phase 5 is not as bad as we think it is. Now, I maintain, though, and we'll talk about this with each individual project. I'm having such a hard time today. Individual project, we'll talk about this. Phase 5, I think, is easily the worst phase in the MCU. I think that this phase has some of my least favorite projects in the MCU, though not my least favorite. I think my least favorite is still Incredible Hulk to this day. But as I was putting all these projects, every single time I finish watching an MCU project, I put it into my overall ranking. And yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, a good number of these projects are in that bottom chunk of my MCU rankings, which is a bummer. But there are also some really solid hidden gems in here. In fact, I would say, for the most part, the top, we'll go through this. The top maybe 4-ish are projects that I really, really do enjoy. And then the next 3 or 4... I would say the next 4 are projects that I think are ranging from pretty good with missed potential, with some problems in my opinion, to, yeah, it was pretty good. It was fine, not bad. And then the last few are projects that I think are flawed, for sure, very flawed. But even those projects, like none of these projects I'm looking at, I'm going, I hate this thing. And I know, there's one show in particular that a lot of people just hate. And I'll explain why. We've talked about this. I've done reviews for basically every single one of these projects. Have we done reviews for all of them? I think maybe not early Phase 5, so not Ant-Man, not Echo, not Guardians, but definitely the second half of Phase 5. We've done reviews of all of those projects, so you can go check those out on the Access Blockbusters Pod. I have been rambling for a little bit now. Let's get into these rankings. Coming in at number 12 is Echo. And like I said just now, I don't think Echo is terrible. I really don't. I think it's at number 12 because it is so forgettable, in my opinion. It is so incredibly forgettable. I think Kingpin is there, and he's fine. He's there and he's fine. I think Alaco Cox's Maya Lopez is good. He's fine. And I don't remember anything else. I think that, perhaps it's by proxy of the show releasing all 5 episodes at once. And it was in January of 2023, and you're just like, yeah, I'll just watch it and see what happens. I don't know. I don't know if that was the reason why. But it's one of the more forgettable shows in the MCU. Maybe this becomes a project that just kind of quietly creeps up the rankings if we do a rewatch of Phase 5 eventually, which we will. But I put Echo at number 12, not because I hated it, not because I disliked it inherently, because I just can't remember anything about it, to be quite honest with you. Number 11 is The Marvels. Now, The Marvels, as I've talked about this on the YouTube channel, The Marvels is an interesting movie because I think it's not particularly well made. And I don't mean that as disrespect to the directors and writers. I don't mean that to say that they didn't try or they didn't put a good effort in or anything like that they weren't trying. Nothing like that. I just think that the end product that came out of it was not particularly well done. I will admit, though, it is entertaining. I think it is entertaining. I think that the memories scene of the Flurkins was pretty funny. Kamala Khan is a jewel. She's just amazing. I think that, they did a fine enough job with Monica Rambeau and Carol Danvers as characters and their characterizations. The conflict was not interesting. Dar-Ben was not interesting. But I would be lying if I didn't say that the power switching or the play switching was not, uninteresting. I think it was interesting and most of it was entertaining. But I don't think it was a particularly interesting or particularly well-made movie, in my opinion. So number 11 is The Marvels. Number 10 is the show that probably everyone else has at the very bottom of their, not just Phase 5 rankings, but the MCU rankings, and that's Secret Invasion. Now, this is perhaps my most, my hottest take of this list, and that's fine. Everyone has their own opinions. I think Secret Invasion, just regardless, outside of the MCU, irrespective of the MCU, just as an individual show, I think it's fine. I think what a lot of people are upset about are the more MCU connections of why is there a Super Skrull, Gaia, crazy overpowered character just running around in the MCU? Fair question. We may never see her again. What's going on with Rhodey? That one, I've always maintained that even if the original intention was to make Rhodey a Skrull from Civil War, they can easily retcon that. It's not like Rhodey came out of that cell and was like, hey guys, it's been a while. I haven't seen you guys since, since the hospital in Civil War. Remember that, guys? No, he didn't say anything like that. He was wearing a hospital gown. And yes, it was probably intended for that to be the case, but you can so easily retcon that to say he was in the hospital after Endgame, he had injuries. That's fine. And I think that makes some sense actually for that character. It's fine. I think the ending of Secret Invasion was a little bit weird. Yeah, I mean, I think that and then just the declaration of everything going on with the president and being like, yeah, we're not gonna, no more aliens, it had political undertones and some of the things in the show were interesting. I think Nick Fury was interesting in the show for sure. I think a lot of the things in the character, I think that a lot of the way that the show was presented was pretty grounded actually and pretty interesting. I think Secret Invasion, irrespective of everything else in the MCU, is fine. That's my take. So we can talk a lot more about Secret Invasion another time, but that is what I think about that show. Coming in at number 9, spoilers ahead, is Ironheart. If you don't want to hear more about Ironheart, skip ahead about 30 seconds or a minute. But I think Ironheart, like I just said in my spoiler discussion for episodes 4 through 6, is a sketch of a really good show. Meaning that I think a lot of the great ideas of the show were outlined and were there, but not fleshed out nearly well enough. And I think that that's a problem. It doesn't make for a great show in itself. But I can't deny that everything, and this, spoiler warning if you're still listening, but Mephisto, right? I think that all that stuff was really interesting, really well done. But I don't know. I mean, a lot of the stuff just kind of felt half-baked to me. It's a bummer because I think this could have been a really good 10 to 12 episode show, and 6 episodes was just not nearly enough. So number 9 is Ironheart. Coming in at number 8 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Another movie that some people really hate and I think is just fine. I think it is totally fine. Is it my favorite thing in the MCU that, the MCU has ever done? No, absolutely not. I think, though, it is entertaining enough. It's maybe not the greatest thing, but it is just fine. And that's about all I'm going to say about that. It's just fine to me, and it's entertaining enough. Coming in at number 7 is Captain America: Brave New World. Another movie that I think on balance is fine, with some interesting parts to it, but also some parts to it that, unlike Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, I'm like, that's not great. I think that the character arc of the leader is not really well done in this movie, versus in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I think Kang is, regardless of everything that went on with Jonathan Majors, I think that Kang was a very intimidating villain in that movie. I think Red Hulk stuff was pretty good. I think Harrison Ford did a great job. I think that it just felt like a kind of sloppily put together movie, which makes sense, the reshoots and all that kind of stuff. So, but I think overall I enjoy the tone and the feel of Captain America: Brave New World more than I do Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But both movies to me are just very flawed but enjoyable movies, in my opinion. And yeah, I think they're fine. Coming in at number 6 is Agatha All Along. So this is a show that I think it's interesting because I really was not on board with the show for about the first 6 episodes. If you go and watch the all of my individual spoiler discussions for Agatha All Along, right about episode 5 or 6, I was like, I don't know about this. I personally am not a big fan of the individual episodes being a witch's trial because I just wasn't interested in the witch's trial. The witch's road, rather. I just wasn't interested in that. I will say the last 2 episodes really made the show work. The twists at the end with the witch's road and what was going on there, I thought that was fantastic what they were doing there. And I really, really, really enjoyed that. So it was able to turn itself around. But overall, I think it was good on balance, especially given the ending. But I don't think it was nearly as good as I hoped it was going to be. So Agatha All Along. Coming in at number 5 is Daredevil Born Again. To me, and this is after now having rewatched the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, and everyone says Daredevil Season 3 is the best one. I haven't seen it in a long time, so I don't remember how well it stacks up to the first 2. But I think, I'm going to wager that this is going to be my least favorite season of Daredevil. It's messy. It's very messy. And you can tell that this show was kind of gutted and re-put together. But unlike a movie like Captain America Brave New World, what they put back together, individual scenes and moments and story arcs, are very compelling and very interesting and set up what I think could be one of the best seasons of television in the Marvel canon with Daredevil Born Again Season 2. I am very, very excited about that. So I think Season 1 had a lot of the elements that it needed to be there, and I think they did what they could to stitch it back together, but I don't think that it got all the way there, but still really, really solid. Coming in at number 4 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, another movie that I think was really good, really well made. I've always said, though, that the Guardians were just not for me, not in the sense of I didn't like any of the Guardians films. I just never, when I was ranking, every single time I would rank the MCU, the Guardians films would never appear at the top of my list. And I kind of wondered why. And I just think that some of James Gunn's sensibilities don't click with me 100% of the way. I really like the first Guardians. I think Guardians 2 is actually kind of underrated. But never do I put them in the conversation of the best MCU films of all time, even though I know some people really think that the first Guardians is one of the best MCU movies ever made. And I love that. I really celebrate that. And I think Guardians 3 is very similar. All 3 of those films are very close to me in quality. I think 3 might be my favorite, or maybe 1. I think it's 1, 3, and 2. But I think that this film did such a good job of exploring Rocket's backstory. And I think that the emotion was there. And I think that the humor and all that, it was all there. So really enjoyed Guardians 3. Coming in at number 3, speaking of enjoying, is Deadpool and Wolverine, a film that was kind of billed as, it's going to be super emotional and whatnot, and in addition to the comedy. And I don't know, maybe, but I think that the comedy was there. This is one of the most entertaining movies in the MCU. I would put it up there, not in the same level as Thor Ragnarok, but in terms of entertainment wise. Definitely. Like, if you want to just put on an MCU movie and have a good time, this movie, Thor Ragnarok, they're up there. The first couple Ant-Man movies, these are just, it's such a good time. Such a good time. Coming in at number 2 is Loki Season 2. I think that, I've said this before though, Loki Season 2, it's hard for me to look at it separately from Loki Season 1 because I am still to this day baffled as to why they had to split those 2 seasons up. It is clearly one 12-episode season of television to me. And it's just weird. I don't get it because literally the very first scene at the beginning of Loki Season 2 is right after the end of Loki Season 1. You could have just made this one season. That being said, this season as a whole felt more conclusive. It felt more, it felt like it knew what the story was going to be. It knew the story was gonna tell. And I love the arc for Loki as a character all the way from when he first entered the TVA. I mean, honestly, through the first Avengers, then entering the TVA to where he ends up as the God of Stories, Loki. Really, really, really well done. Coming in at number 1, though, a pleasant surprise, although I had been saying for a while that I thought Thunderbolts was going to be good, is Thunderbolts. I cannot believe how much I enjoyed Thunderbolts. Is it a perfect movie in my opinion? No. Is it even up there, with the best of the MCU? I don't think so. Like the best of the best, I mean, like your Captain America Civil Wars or Infinity Wars or Endgames or Black Panthers. No, I don't think so. I think the second act in particular is especially, it feels lackluster in comparison to the first and third acts of the movie, but the ending is perhaps one of my favorite endings of any MCU movie. Not just like the last scene of the new Avengers or anything, but like the actual climax, the ending of the resolution of everyone pulling Bob off of the void. And I think that all of that stuff resonated and it was really, really great. So I will put Thunderbolts as my favorite project in the MCU Phase 5, which, look, as we look back on this list really quickly before we end this segment, I'm telling you, like, in my opinion, I get that there are some duds here, and I get that on balance, yeah, this is definitely the weakest phase in the MCU, no doubt, to me, in my mind. I don't think it's as bad as people think it is. Again, I don't think it's the best. I think that there are some projects here that I'm like, whoa, I don't know how we got there. There are some moments, at least, in different projects. But, I mean, Phase 5 has its moments. And I'm not just saying that this is somebody who's a quote-unquote homer for the MCU or whatever. I'm an eternal optimist, I think, in this regard. Like, if you've been watching my DCE rewatch, you'll know that I enjoy most of the DCU canon to some extent. And there are things I don't enjoy, but like I'm not somebody who hates projects, right? Like, even my least favorite project in the DCU is probably Birds of Prey, and I don't hate Birds of Prey. I just don't like it that much. But aside from that, I really don't hate any project in the DCU either. So I think for me it's the eternal optimist in me, but I do enjoy parts and moments of a lot of these different shows and movies. So here's hoping that Phase 6, now that we've officially exited the Bob Chapek, put out as much content as possible era, and we have Fantastic Four, we have Wonder Man, Vision, Avengers Doomsday, Spider-Man 4, I'm hoping Phase 6 is really going to be up there in quality with the rest of the Infinity Saga, the earlier phases of the MCU. So guys, let me know in the comments down below what your own personal ranking of Phase 5 is. Let me know what that would be, and what some of your favorite and maybe least favorite projects in the MCU Phase 5 would be. Let me know in the comments down